At the beginning of the Ottoman Empire?
From the beginning to the end of the Ottomans.
Okay. So you want to know the role of the Ottomans in the expansion of Islam, or the other way around. Osmanlı Devleti'nin İslamiyet'in yayılmasına, büyümesine, gelişmesine yaptığı katkılar olarak ne söyleyeceksiniz?
Osmanlı Devleti, Bernard Levy'nin bir şeyi var, bugün yazılıyor ki kuruluşundan yıkılışına kadar İslam'ın müdafiği, İslam'ın gelişmesine hizmet etmiş ve sonunda da İslam'ı ortadan kaldırmak isteyenlerle mücadele etmeyi en büyük vazife bilen bir devlettir. Gerçekten bunu söyleyeyim.
According to Bernard Lewis, the Ottomans serviced the Islamic faith not only with its expansion but also with its defense.
İslamiyet'in gelişmesine, yayılmasına Osmanlı büyük bir hizmette bulunmuştur. Ancak gerek İslam'da gerekse Osmanlı yönetiminde bir başkasını zorla Müslümanlaştırma gibi bir şey söz konusu değildir.
In the Muslim faith, of course, based on Baqarah 256, converting someone into the Islamic faith by force is not allowed in the Quran. So that was not what the Ottoman Empire was doing. The empire was basically defending, conquering the lands, and trying to conquer the hearts of the people that they governed rather than the land that they conquered. Kalplerini fethediyorlardı hocam. Evet. Ülkeleri evet. Fethetmekle beraber.
Zaten hedef o.
And that was the plan.
Thank you.
Next question.
What would have been the identity, the ethnic identity of the people in the Ottoman Empire, or the high state when it at its height? Would the people have identified themselves as Ottomans, or their self-identification in the empire?
Osmanlı'da yaşayan halklar, bunlar dinleri, milliyetleri farklı olan halklar, kendilerini Osmanlı tebaası olarak mı görüyorlardı? Kendilerinin kültürel kimlikleri ile ilgili düşünceleri hakkında ne söylemek istersiniz?
Şimdi Osmanlı yönetiminde olan halklar kendilerini kültürlerinde, yaşantılarında serbest olmakla birlikte kendilerini Osmanlı olarak görüyorlardı.
The people who lived under the Ottoman Empire, they saw themselves as citizens of this high state, and they were able to live their own culture in a very free fashion.
İstanbul'daki veya Anadolu'daki veya başka yerlerdeki bütün Hristiyanların genel anlamdaki yönetimi patriğe bağlıydı. Patrik onlar hakkında karar verir, gerekirse şahsi hukuku ilgilendiren konularda ceza verirler.
The Christians basically who lived in Istanbul at the time of the Ottoman High State were within the jurisdiction of the patriarch, the Greek Orthodox patriarch. And he would be in charge of their personal affairs. When something was out of order, they could approach the patriarch, and he would be the one who would give the decisions over his people.
Biraz önce sözüne ettiğimiz o fetret döneminde de Hristiyanların herhangi bir isyan hareketine karışmamasının sebebi de budur zaten.
That is why during that empty period of 11 years, when the state was collapsing after the conquest of Tamerlane, the reason why there were no riots in the West was based on this. Hocam, müsaade ederseniz sizden öğrendiğim bir şey ilave edebilir miyim?
Buyurun.
Bu Eskişehir yakınındaki Eskihisar'daki olayı anlatabilir miyim? Müsaadenizle. Bir de Hovakim'i anlatayım isterseniz hocam. Tam çünkü konu bununla ilgili. Two things I learned priorly from him. One is the very beginning of the Ottoman Empire. This is like 1300s. Okay, 1299 is when it started. Near Eskişehir, a little town called Eskihisar, is where a judge was appointed for Fridays to look after the general trials. And on one of such incidents, the judge decided to the better behavior of the Christian over a Muslim citizen that lived in that town. So the Christian came out the victor from the trial. Now this affected the non-Muslim people living in that town and affected the others living around, saying that there was justice in that town. Because the man in charge could actually decide opposing the state religion and could favor a non-Muslim in his verdict. Another one was in 1461. The Armenian leader in Bursa, his name was Hovakim, the religious order leader in Bursa, was appointed patriarch by Mehmet II. And at that time, the Armenian church was not big enough to deserve a patriarch, but he elevated him to that level and treated him equals with Gennadios, the Greek Orthodox patriarch at the time. And that is why the Ottomans favored a great deal to the belief of the non-Muslims and respected them. And that's exactly how it was when we grew up in Istanbul. We had all kinds of friends here, and they were all of different faiths, and we lived side by side. Evet hocam.
I'm not sure if this is the right time to talk about this, but I heard about what is called the Armenian Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Okay.
What is that about? How did that happen? And what are I know it's a great deal of emotion and controversy.
It's not. It's very easy answer. If you know the answer.
I don't.
Okay, but let's start discussing this, okay? It's a good question. It's a valid question. Especially from where you come from, the West Coast. You will receive all these questions all the time. I've had it for 41 years, so this is to me easy now. No, I will go to him. Hocam şimdi bu Ermeni Patrikleştirmesi Hovakim'le başladığını anlattım. Peki diyor bu Ermenilere uygulanan onların genosit dediği, bizim tehcir dediğimiz,
Evet.
yani yer değiştirmenin ne olduğu hakkında bize ne söylemek istersiniz diye soruyorlar.
Galiba soykırım demek.
Genosit dedim zaten. O, soykırım.
Şimdi Osmanlı'da hiçbir zaman soykırıma ulaşacak bir hareket söz konusu değildir.
The Ottoman state, in none of its periods,
Ancak
had the mentality to do genocide.
Ancak Doğu Anadolu'da büyük bir Ermeni nüfus vardı.
However, in the eastern part of the state, near
Fakat-
Kars, Erzurum, there was a great population of
Evet.
the Armenians, Van as well.
Fakat Birinci Dünya Savaşı'ndan önce bu insanlar Ruslarla birleşerek Osmanlı vatandaşını, Müslüman, Türk, Kürt, bütün insanları kılıçtan geçirdiler. Hatta camilere sığınanları bile camilerin içerisinde öldürmeye başladılar.
This is 1914, to be exact, the 24th of April 1914. It came the verdict of relocation, but prior to that, because the Ottomans were fighting with the Russians in the East Front, and that's of December the previous year, the Russians were actually promising freedom to the Armenians as a new state, and had recruited a lot of the Armenian people living in the eastern part to their side. So then they were turning around, Russians and these Ottoman citizens who were the Armenians living in the east. They started killing not only the soldiers but also the people who had taken refuge even into the mosques.
Halbuki Ermeniler Osmanlı'da Millet-i Sadıka olarak isimlendirilirlerdi daha önce.
However, prior to that, the Armenian group in the Ottoman Empire were known as the nation of loyalty. They were known with their loyalty to the Ottoman state.
Rusya'nın Ermenileri teşvik etmesi üzerine gelişen olaylar üzerine devlet bunları bulundukları bölgeden kendisine ait olan başka bir bölgeye asker kontrolünde göç ettirdi. Yani mekan nakli meydana getirdi. Askerin kontrolünde ki kimse onlara dokunmasın.
The Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman states, by 1914, who were actually fighting on several fronts at the time. Hocam bir şey ilave edebilir miyim?
Buyurun.
Müsaadenizle 25 Nisan Anzak çıkarmasıdır. 24 Nisan gecesi de bu tehcir hareketinin kararı çıkmıştır.
Evet.
Osmanlı aynı zamanda Filistin'de çarpışıyor. Aynı zamanda değişik yerlerde 7 cephede çarpışıyor. Dolayısıyla o dönemde yapılan ve tamamen doğuda yaşayanların yer değişimi, yani
evet,
batıda yaşayan, İstanbul'da, İzmir'de yaşayanlarla hiç alakası olmayan. Onu söyleyeyim mi?
Evet, onu söyleyeyim. Batıda bir şey yok.
We have to understand one thing very carefully about this relocation plan. This was not an ethnic cleansing as the so-called genocide theory is based on, because none of the people who lived in the West, areas like Istanbul, Izmir, they were not influenced by this verdict. There were Armenians, and even more Armenians were living in Istanbul. Nothing happened to them. They lived in their own place. But the Russian assault was from the east. So they had to be relocated to a territory in the south by the state military personnel. They were guarded by them at that time.
Yani devletin onları, sadece doğudakileri kendi toprağı olan Suriye, Lübnan, Filistin gibi yerlere göndermesi günümüzde İstanbul'dan bir toplumu alıp Konya'ya göndermek gibiydi.
He is regarding this relocation plan as relocating some of the people in Istanbul to the areas in Konya in central Turkey. because of a need that might happen. And it only involved areas which were part of the Ottoman Empire at that time, like Palestine, Syria, is where they were relocated. Right.
So if I follow that up, why do the Armenians call it a massacre?
I will answer after he's answering. Bunu Ermeniler niye acaba soykırım olarak adlandırıyorlar?
Çünkü burada bir propaganda var. Mesela propaganda
It's a matter of propaganda.
ve daha önce bütün Osmanlı ülkesindeki Ermenileri toplasanız sayısı 1,5 milyonu bulmaz. Daha önce 500 binken seneler geçtikçe bu tehcire uğrayan Ermenilerin sayısı gittikçe çoğalıyor. Şu anda 1,5'a çıktı.
He has noticed that these figures who had been relocated have been increasing over the past years. And started out with 500,000, now it's about 1.5 million. When the census numbers we have, he knows it from the archives, is about 1.3 milyon gibi bir Ermeni yaşarken 1,5 öldü diyorlar, değil mi öyle? The population was about 1.3 million on the Armenians at the time, but now they're even up to 1.5 million people. May I make a comment as well?
Eğer hepsi öldüyse bugün Suriye'deki, Lübnan'daki Ermeniler nereden geldi?
If they all died, where did the Armenians living in Syria and Palestine today have come from?
Hocam ben de bir katılabilir miyim? Imagine that this room is the land of the Ottoman Empire. Okay? You follow me? Because you asked a question, that's why I put it here. So here we are from different nationalities, and most of us are Turkish, but we have the Armenians or the Greeks or people from other nations. Let's imagine that some enemies came to the door and attacked us, right? And they are Russians, okay? And some Armenians in this room sided with them, okay? And we fought back, the Turks fought back, and pushed the Russians to their land back. Okay? So after our fight, what do you think that we are supposed to do? You are Turkish, and you have the Armenians who did not fight back to Russians, and the Armenians sided with them. So after you fought back, after you won,
And Abkhazia,
yeah,
you know Abkhazia, the Abkhazian region of Georgia today.
Today also a more difficult problem with the Azerbaijan Armenians conquest that take a big part of Azerbaijan or the Armenians. But we will not ask anything to the Armenians today.
Today's Ottoman Empire, George Bush is like Suleiman the Magnificent.
We wish.
Well, wishful thinking is not what we're discussing here. So just comparing times, şimdi 16. asırdakiyle bugünkü asırdaki duruma bakıyoruz.
and the Iraqis are the Armenians.
So when one attack in Pearl Harbor put away all the Japanese Americans and Canadians in camps for the next 3.5 years, to isolate them and to save them from attack from the other people. And that was only one attack in Pearl Harbor. But like he's saying, the Ottoman Empire was fighting in 7 fronts when the relocation took place. And the Ottoman Empire, the 25th or the 24th in one day is the longest day in the empire, according to historians. Because it's a day when a lot of things happened, and the Ottoman Empire was in no way ready to fight the battle. They were tricked getting into the battle on the German side. Those of you living in Germany, I'm sure, will know what I'm talking about. How the Germans affected the Ottomans to enter the war when we were not even ready to fight the battle. And so, this is why when I guide different groups, I take Aussies around. This is New Zealand and Australians, and we go to the Anzac landing site. The Australians talk about the Turks as Johnny Turks. And they, in fact, praise an enemy. And they tell me they come here every year to celebrate a defeat. It's not easy to understand that. They've been doing it since the end of the battle. And yet, the same Ottomans are called and being prosecuted as being those who caused the genocide against the Armenian nationals of their own state. How can one enemy be so Johnny Turk and at the same time be such a traitor to its own people? This is difficult to understand. We're talking about exactly the same time, the same people, and yet you go to Australia, they will say the best things you can ever hear about the Turks. So I offered to them, why don't you and the Turkish government, we build the bridge over the Dardanelles and call it the Bridge to Peace? Because they understand peace, we understand peace. And we all need peace. So it's an identity problem, Professor Hofer. Reason is simple. The same reason why the Anzacs come here to celebrate is that it's their first appearance in history. It's how the world got to know them as Anzacs. They're hanging on to their identity. Now those who had to leave the Ottoman lands because of these killings on both sides. In fact, the history, mukatele diyorsunuz siz buna, değil mi hocam? The history records it as killing on both sides, rather than genocide. But this is an issue that will last very long because it's part of their identity problem. And they have rich people who feeds on this, and this story will never finish. You come back here in 100 years, we hold another session, you will ask me the same question. 100 sene sonra gelse buraya gene aynı şeyi soracaklar. Çünkü bu bitmez. Buna devamlı benzin veriyorlar hocam. Paraları var bu adamların. That's my interpretation.
Although I'm not a historian, I'm a student of philosophy, and after all these fruitful assumptions, I understand that we also miss a part that should be included in this debate, and that is the issue where any certain science has its own method of analysis and understanding structure. And since the claim of Armenian genocide is one of this, and that it follows into the area of history, and since history is science, that must be based on historical documents. I remember that the Association of Turkish History has published more than 100 official historical documents regarding to that specific era. Within since with their original manuscripts written Ottomanic writings, where we see that during this relocation process, unlike what we assume that it was a civil criminal incident, it was unlikely that the Ottomans supported the civilians by food supply, and even to some extent with military ammunition where it was deemed necessary. So I think that should also be considered seriously if that is to be resolved. And as we see from the actual media debates and on the internet, the case is not scientifically explored. And this is one of the big gaps. Just because it is not understood on the basis of its scientific basis, we shouldn't jump on any conclusions.
So, if there's any more questions regarding history you would like to answer, and then we'll have to change the session.
Not the genocide issue.
Yes.
I'm still the moderator.
Yes, yes. Moderatör benim diyor.
Okay. Yeah, but no genocide.
Yes.
But how much is the identity, ethnic identity of Turks today tied with the ethnic association or identity to the Ottomans? You see my question?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it was to you.
Bugünkü Türkiye'de yaşayanların etnik kimlik açısından, Osmanlılarla bağlantısı açısından nasıl bir şey söyleyebiliriz?
Ne Osmanlı var, ne Osmanlı.
Türkleri kastediyoruz. Yani Türk kimliği mesela, ben Türk'üm ya.
Evet.
Ben ne kadar Osmanlı hissediyorum kendimi.
Şimdi tabii bu şahıslara göre değişir ama günümüz Türkiye'sinde artık insanlar biz evet Osmanlı'dan geldik ama Türkiye Cumhuriyeti vatandaşıyız derler.
We are basically Turkish nationals today, even though our roots go back to the Ottoman Empire. That's the identity.
Is there a pride in the Ottoman Empire that still people feel?
Depends on who you ask this question to. I feel very proud that my roots go back to the Ottomans. Bu herkese değişik şekilde değişir. Yes. Yes.
You had said that after Suleiman the Magnificent, the high state started to retract.
Mm-hmm.
Did that include land? And at the time of World War I, or just before the end of the Ottoman Empire, how big? It was 15 million square miles. How big was it near the end? How big was the area of land that the Ottoman?
You mean like today? How big is Turkey?
1914.
Like when the Ottoman
Okay.
Empire was still there,
Okay.
you said that after
Okay.
Suleiman it started to get smaller, became less popular.
Okay.
Less popular.
1914'e gelindiği zaman Osmanlı İmparatorluğu 24 milyondan kaça inmişti?
Neredeyse yarıya kadar.
About half. Half in size, almost.
So, for instance, what areas were still under Ottoman influence? Most of the Middle East?
Middle East, Balkan states, and that's it. Yes. Yes.
It's my understanding that the Ottomans came out of Central Asia or the pre-Ottoman Empire around Central Asia, correct?
Yes.
And they, in Central Asia, they were not holding to, at that time, the Islamic belief. Would that be your understanding as well of the pre-Ottoman Empire, of the people who then made up the Ottoman Empire primarily?
You mean like when did the Turks accept Islamic faith?
No, I think I understand when they accepted, but does the identity of a Turk that is proud of the Ottoman, the identity under the Ottoman, and does it go back even further before that time period?
You mean before the Ottomans?
Yes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Of pride in that period, even before the Ottoman High States.
Şimdi demin sorduğu sualin uzantısı bu. Kişiden kişiye değişen bu Osmanlılığını hissetme, ondan gurur duyma hissi, Osmanlı öncesi dönemden gelen de kısmı var mı? Türklerin daha önceki tarihine bakarsak, oradan da aynı şekilde evet benim köklerimde o da var deme duygusu var mı? Yoksa bu Osmanlılıkla mı başlıyor?
Hayır. Bu eskiden beri yani Anadolu beylikleri,
Selçuk'tan başlıyor esas.
Selçuklardan itibaren yani Müslümanlar, Türklerin İslamiyet'i kabul etmelerinden itibaren
Başlayan.
hatta Karahanlılardan itibaren
Başlayan
bir anlayıştır.
It starts with the Karahanid Empire. 920 is the date of it. But to be more specific, you need to go back to the Selçuk Empire that ruled from Konya as the empire. And so the Turkish identity holds that high as well, in high esteem. Hocamız moderatör nereye gittiler? Ha, telefondalar. Evet. Başlayalım. Can we go on to the next session? How are we doing? Hocam teşekkür ederiz.
reported for me, to the religious instruction in school, not in the other institutions, to continue religious education under the control and supervision of the state with uniform educational system for all children, to construct normative schools, means school for imam and preacher, for requirements of religious duties and services as belong to the Ministry of Education, to establish a theology or religious faculty for higher degrees in religious instructions will belong to the university. From this perspective of changing of religious institutions, the date of the 1924 is a clear separation point by proclaiming the law of unification of instruction. It says Terim Tedrisat Kanunu or Rezmin Birliği Kanunu in March 3, 1924. This law was proclaiming that all kinds of schools had been unified, which were applying different curricula and methods. By proclamation of the law of unification of instruction and new protocol of dignity has been established within the Darul a unique university system which assumed modern education methods. Of course, medrese at the beginning of the Ottoman age existed. In spite of all its controversial history, it was an effective institution to the date of 1924. This is not the story of medrese has an arguable historic background from the Ottomans of the changing, but it has also a spatial and authentic style for the Selçuklu Empire and Ottoman citizens as virgin from the Arabic style in methods and curricula. The period between 1930 and 1949 was politically and constitutionally quite turbulent related to the religious affairs. In 1933, theology faculty was closed when Darul was converted into Istanbul University. In 1930s, religious education courses were taken out from the school program up to 1949. The first theology faculty in Turkey was established within Ankara University on June 4, 1949. In 1951, normative schools were also established within the system of secondary schools. The current situation and constitution had gradually developed from the 1980s onwards. And I would like to give you some information about the development of religious instruction area after 1980. Developments and changes all over the world have changed the social demands in the whole area in Turkey in 1980s. Religious education applications in Turkey have been discussed on the following perspective. Is this practice successful or not? This is an important question. Are the achievements of religious education enough to cover new religious requirements in public? Is the methods and approach of religious education is convenient for minority groups? Beside all these questions, some intellectuals are arguing the question, should religious instructions take part in school curricula by the reason of numeric understanding and interpretations? After the annual was instituted by Ministry of National Education in 1959, and our faculties belongs to that higher Islamic institute. And this history also is also our history, our faculty history. Following it, other similar institutes were established in United States. By the Global Higher Education Council, this says here, in 1982, these institutes were made as part of universities, which were located in the same cities as the respective faculties of divinity. New unity schools continue to be established under the administration of various universities. Currently, in Turkey, 22 faculties of divinity provide higher religious education and instruction. Faculty of Divinity undergraduate program is designed to produce qualified graduates who take Quran and Sunnah as their ultimate basis, who are able to evaluate the cultural heritage they inherit, to interpret the present life conditions, and to propose solutions to current religious problems. The Divinity undergraduate program has 3 departments with various major scientific areas, as mentioned, our vice mentioned about that. Department of Basic Islamic Science, Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies, Department of Islamic History and Islamic Arts. In major scientific areas, these departments provide students with information about features, curriculum, methods, historical development, psychological, sociological, and philosophical foundations of religious education. Students are instructed on various issues concerning Islamic history, such as distribution of Islamic historiography, source of Islam, the periods of the Prophet Muhammad, and Turkish Muslim states, their institutions, culture, and civilization. In this program, with courses of history, religions, relations among religions, their similarities and differences are considered with comparative methods. Such courses aim for furthering knowledge concerning religions that are closely connected to Islamic and national history, such as Judaism and Christianity, as well as the world religious types like Buddhism, Sikhism, Hinduism, and great systems of belief which contribute to making of human history. Now will also be added in this curriculum a new department in the Faculty of Divinity, Ankara University, which includes Eastern and Western religions for researchers, and it has a new department in our faculty with the title of International Faculty of Divinity. Is it right or not? International Faculty of Divinity.
That is perfect.
Postgraduate education. In Turkey, postgraduate education is pursued at institutes established with leading universities. Postgraduate education in the area of divinity is offered within the organization of the universities, Institute of Social Sciences. And maybe it will be complicated, but I would like to give some information about the problem of religious education in Turkey. Firstly, I want to start problems of informal religious education. As mentioned in the constitutional article of 24, freedom of religion and conscience of the Constitution of 1982, religious education and instruction of religious and moral education are done under control and supervision of the state. Despite some of its problems, religious instruction are provided in schools, but for adult person who demand religious knowledge, the religious instruction offered by experts and connoisseurs are not so sufficient and educated yet. Of course, this is my subject, this is my opinion. By the expression of the Constitution, beyond this religious education and its instruction for adults, there depends
Biraz daha yüksek konuşabilir miyiz? İkisi beraber. Evet.
School of Urban in Vietnam, as you know,
Seminary.
is open now because of the unification of the instruction law. Because after the Republican period, we decided that all school must be governed all with all the same laws. Yeah, you can say like that. That's law.
So you're saying that Christian clergy also get their training at the university, not at a Christian seminary. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. But the Christian citizens who lives in Turkey can take their religious instructions from their own methods and their own teachers, with their own teachers. Yeah, there is no school for them.
The Christian clergy has no school
In Turkey.
Right, no separate school.
No separate.
So do you,
They have to go abroad, train there and come back.
For their schools. There are there are schools for foreigners.
There is no
Istanbul,
school.
in other states.
There is no seminary already open in Turkey where you can have educated clergy.
Can I understand isn't there a large private school system in Turkey also?
Yes, we have special schools, but I think there is not like the special schools in Europe or your country, because special schools are compulsory to imply the same programs as the same curriculum in schools. The curriculum is one.
The main point is that religious education should be done under state control and also by the state. Okay? We have private universities in Turkey, for example, but we cannot open up a faculty of theology or a religious seminary in private universities. It's not allowed. Okay? We have normative schools, which are secondary religious schools, right? And we have private secondary schools, okay? But you cannot open up a private innovative school, private religious school. It is not like in Europe. So that is the main point. That's why public seminary is not allowed. And the present Secretary for Education said, if it is up to me, he once said a few months ago, if it is up to me, I will reopen the public seminary tomorrow. But secular establishment does not allow.
Does some of that come from the history of the beginnings of the Republic, when there was a lot of religious fighting because some Muslims did not want to go Republican like Ataturk wanted, and so they wanted to make sure that the state was able to control the theology so that those kinds of groups would not?
No, yeah, that is our problem, because I think that there is no, there could be a big gap between views it's a big gap, I think that. And it might not be like that, because the religious education is need and a requirement for the people, for the persons. And I think that some scholar or somebody's, I don't know, I don't know, they wanted to separate religion and the daily life, but we have seen it is not real style for Turkish citizens.
So, did I misunderstand, or is there religious instruction in the home from the parents to the children prior to them going to school, or is it kept out of? I mean, it's just in the school. Does it happen at home among the family?
Before school, third class. Fourth class, sorry. They are giving religious education from home, from their family, of course. And it's well, I think that because I'm a religious educator, and it must be from the zero.
In Germany, the state also influences the curriculum, and they have incorporated into the curriculum teaching on Christianity, which has been there for centuries, but also basics of Islam, teaching on Islam. In the curriculum that's taught from the 4th grade on, as the Ministry of Education incorporated teaching on Christian faith into the curriculum here in Germany.
I mentioned about that subject. We give religious culture instruction or religious instruction, not religious education.